fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very dark Daytona road course for round 2 of our 5th Ozicar Formula Skip Barber season. My name is Ryan Jones. Alongside me, as always, David Haynes and Jay Kennedy is behind the scenes. And we arrive at Daytona off the back of a wild 2 races at Virginia International Raceway. We saw the guys like Skurlock, Chastanoff, and Clark dance fighting at the top. In terms of looking at a form book for tonight, David, Russell Clark, one of the drivers that absolutely loves this racetrack.
I think the winner's going to be whoever can sit down lowest in the car and get the least drag. Here at Daytona, I'm expecting to see a lot of moves on the banking. Be very, very difficult for anyone to break away from a pack here on the high banks of Daytona, especially you factor in how far back the slipstream will go from the leading car and exactly how powerful it is going to be on the long, flat-out stretches of the oval. That should definitely make it challenging. Don't know if that's going to make it fun for our drivers. It's going to be entertaining for us watching, though.
Well, how much of the lap is full throttle? It's going to be close to 50% with the basically the entire 2.5 mile oval portion of the racetrack being a flat out bar the bus stop. The track itself is only 5.7 kilometers long in the first place. Qualifying gives us a pretty decent idea. It is very tight. Cameron Dance has managed to break half a second clear of the field. He won't be able to maintain that in the race unless there is some big drama behind him. But then it's just a couple of tenths covering Skurlock, Chastanoff, and Clark for the rest of the front 2 rows on the grid. 18 cars have set times. 3 have elected not to or picked up off tracks. That's McLeod, Lasso, and Patterson. Let's go through and take a look then at how our 21 cars are lining up at Daytona. It is Cameron Dance that has himself the pole. Michael Skurlock will start from second. James Chastanoff and Russell Clark on row 2 ahead of Braden Martin and Dennis Hancock. Jason Fewens and Nathan Verney 7th and 8th. Peter Wilkinson and Philip Backett-Soulis making up your top 10.
Then the remainder of the grid looks like Jeremy Bush, Ira Felberg, Sean Doyle, Reg James, Leon Williams, Scott Melville, Isaac Summers, now Matthew Joy, and no qualifying times for Mitch McLeod, Darren Lasso, and Jack Patterson. Because of the banking, it's going to be a rolling start tonight.
Good luck with that. It's very awkward standing starts on the oval just while doing this rolling start. The other issue with that, David, is most of these drivers are used to standing starts in these cars. But a rolling start down into turn 1 is, well, pretty close to their top speed. And I reckon that we could see some drama if someone just misses their braking point. It could end up with a bit of a, what's the word? Concertina? Wow. What is the word?
A Ben Constanduris effect. Concertina is the word. But
yeah,
you're right. It is going to be very fast coming into turn 1, a corner that, you come down off the banking, which can unsettle the cars. There's a bit of a kink, and then it keeps tightening into the corner. But on the other hand, it might all come down to how long does Cam Dance wait before starting the race? Because he could go pretty early or he could go pretty late, and that will have a huge effect.
Well, he's got to wait for the pace car to get out of the way first, and that doesn't happen until we're way out of turn 4. I would go as late as possible. You don't want to give yourself a chance to get slipstreamed and the old be the vixen or the slingshot maneuver, which we'll see plenty of times tonight. Up the back straight at Virginia International Raceway. It is going to be amplified 1,000. The other benefit to a rolling start is they do have a little bit of a window here to warm up their tyres, and you can see that already with Cameron Dance just wiggling around the racetrack, trying to get some temperature in those front tyres, maybe some of the rears. What's the benefit to that, David?
not being quite a slippery eel on the first lap of the race, I think, is what those guys are going for. It is just a short sprint race to open up tonight's proceedings, so it'll be a lap or two before the tyres are in their perfect window, and then there's only a handful of laps before the race is done, so they want to start strong, hoping maybe that will let them break away from some of the cars deeper in the field.
Big thanks to Simfinity and Prestige. Badge, trophy, and engraving as well for their support of the series, making all this possible, making sure we are coming to the green. Green flag is out. Cameron Dance holds him. Now he goes. And at Daytona, the world center of racing, we are racing with the Skippies. And look at that already. Russell Clark wanting to take it 3 wide as he looks up high and wide into turn 1. Thinks better of it. And Dance will lead us through the first corner. Skurlock on the outside. Gonna retain second place. Chastanoff and Clark settle in line ahead of Martin. Then they're side by side throughout the pack.
Well, clean through turn 1, but then comes the horseshoes of the infield where people attempted to throw it in deep. They're difficult corners. They're a bit slower. Still clean looking so far, but there were a few aggressive moves there, and Jeremy Bush has been very aggressive on the start.
Indeed he has. Trying to make some early progress. You do not want to get caught off the back of the train. Someone like Mitchell McLeod starting from, 19th. Got to be careful there's not a bit of a check-up that results in the leaders pulling away from a part of the pack, because then he will have no chance of getting up that high. There is McLeod. He's already picked up a couple of spots. He's in an awkward spot here, though, as we head back onto the oval. Does a good job to swoop around the outside, though. He'll get the momentum and carry it up onto the banking. Oval 1 and 2. Up front, Cameron Dance has got himself a handy margin, but I don't suppose that's going to stick around for too long. The Skurlock has now got Chastanoff looking for second.
Hancock back at Sulis, Fewens and Verney towards the bus stop here. They were 2 wide on the banking, and that is all sorts of out of shape for Fewens, and behind as well. Peter Wilkinson's had some problems at the bus stop.
Just the one victim from the bus stop on the opening lap. Fewens is really struggling for pace now, isn't he, though? Nathan Verney goes straight through the middle. Back at Sulis, had to get out of the way. But look already, he's able to come back. That's how powerful the slipstream is. He didn't have the momentum. Now he's got all the momentum. New leader up front as well, as Chastanoff goes to the front after starting this race from third. Fewens fights back in this trio. And I've just noticed the pace car is halfway in the fence as well, as I breezed by that. Someone might need to check on that safety car driver.
Well, he's not needed for the rest of this race, so I'm sure they can get that fixed for race number 2. But we did see plenty of 2 wide, 3 wide, getting the toe, getting out of the toe, leapfrogging someone, and then slingshotting right back on the banking, which is awesome to see. But as that goes on, your top 3 have broken away from the next 3, from the next 3. That is exactly what Chastanoff, Dance, and Skurlock wanted. Exactly what people like Mitch McLeod trying to work their way through the field did not want. That's the danger of the pack racing, is if no one wants to work with you, your own skills can be sometimes not enough.
Russell Clark just leading that second group. The key for these 3 is to not start fighting. If they pass each other now, they're fine. They're just only increasing the speed of the entire group, and they can probably catch the top 3, especially if they start fighting through the corners and such. In fact, here we go. Dance on the outside, Chastanoff on the inside, Michael Skurlock just lifting off the throttle there, not wanting to take them 3 abreast. Dance reclaims the lead. They sort themselves out by the time they get to the next braking zone.
I think that's important coming towards the bus stop here, as they recognise who's in the lead of the pack and everyone else just rolls out, falls in line. But that is not happening for Fewens back at Sulis and McLeod, who now finds himself on the back of this as well. So he's up 9 positions so far. He can definitely get to the front of this train. But how much further can he go after that?
That'd be 10, but look at that. Vernie's forcing him up the racetrack. He's going to have to go right to the top, up against the fence. Very back of the shot. There it is. Now Vernie tucks behind him. So McLeod's just picked off all three of those guys, Vernie, Backett-Sillis, and Fewins, and puts himself up into P7.
Not going to get away from these guys. 3 wide coming down off the banking into turn 1. Cloud had the inside. He's used it to good effect, but I really think he's going to struggle to get away from these guys unless, well, they're still going too wide.
Yeah, Vernie was really... Oh no, there's a run off the road for Sean Doyle. Just grabbed the grass, and he loops it further into the grass. That's going to put him... Oh! Russell Clark as well is running into dramas. Same corner, but a little bit further on, and on the inside. What on earth has happened to Mr. Clark? Well, that's really tough to call from that angle, isn't it, David? Got together with Michael Skurlock. Braden Martin, sorry.
Yeah, Martin was a bit wide and then was narrower on the exit than I think Russell Clark was expecting, and the two lines converge. It really almost looked like Russell Clark stalled it there as well.
That second angle, I think, there showed us Clark just... Yeah, wasn't expecting Martin to be so tight on the exit and, well, pretty much drove into him. A really unfortunate situation. But both those guys, they will be eagerly awaiting their opportunity to requalify and go again in race 2 a little bit later on up front. It's a tried tale of Chastanoff and Skurlock side by side. Dance just falling off behind them in third, just biding his time for now. No real pressure for him. Dennis Hancock in 4th and Mitchell McLeod in 5th are in really boring spots right now, to put it pretty bluntly. They'll be hoping for some drama amongst this top 3 to sew him up. We might get it here.
Skurlock, I think, rolling out of that one, letting these two battle for the minute. Hancock about 2 seconds off the back of Skurlock means he's just out of the draft, and then McLeod still has not been able to shake Vernie and Fewins and Backett-Sillis.
And McLeod did have an advantage, but it shrunk rapidly up on the oval, showing just how powerful that draft is. Just past halfway in this one. Just to 7 laps for our opening sprint race. Don't forget, race 2 will be a little bit longer, probably about 11 or 12 laps, and that will feature a pit stop as well. That's the sort of move that would slow up the leaders, going side by side in the infield section. None of them can take the preferred line. And they would have lost a little bit of time there. Hancock would have loved to see that. Skurlock might have got slightly spooked by that, because he really dropped off, didn't he?
Yeah, I think Hancock's got 1.5 seconds to Skurlock now. That's where he needs to be. Just tantalizingly close to being able to pick up the toe off the top 3. He wants them to go too wide here. He's begging for them to go too wide into the bus stop, but they're not going to do it.
They're wily operators. All 3 of these cars actually out front. Although, Dance just made a big mistake. That's going to give him a slowdown. He was right across the grass exiting the bus stop, so he has to take the high road. Lifts off the throttle, and it'll slowly clear itself, but he will have to fall back behind his competitors here as Skurlock momentarily had himself into the lead, but Chastanoff fights back with the insider on. On this lap, by the way, McLeod and Vernie, who are 5th and 6th, have gained a second on our race leaders, and they've pulled away from Backett-Sillis and Fewins behind.
Being a little clever. Here is 1st and 2nd. Chastanoff back into the lead. Dance, I think, has managed to clear that slowdown, and Hancock is trying to just pick up the draft so desperately to bring himself back into play the last couple of laps here. Otherwise, he'll just be amongst the top 3. McLeod, that fastest lap of the race, so that's how we caught a lot of the time on the leaders. They were a bit off their best. McLeod picked up the toe very, very effectively in some important places.
Well, it was a full second quicker than Chastanoff. 11.4 to a 10.4. Here he is. Dennis Hancock is really getting quite close as well to the back of Cameron Dance. We're on lap 5 of 7. There's a possibility of this still becoming a 6-car fight on the final lap. There's 6.7 seconds between them, but if they catch another second this lap and then they start to fight, which is quite likely in the last 2 laps, they could really sum themselves up as Gerlach cycles back to the front. There's also that bit of a mental game, or strategic game I should say, David, where you don't want to be leading at this point on the lap, on the last lap.
Yeah, precisely. I don't know. You want to be second coming out of the bus stop, I think, but then the person in front really could roll out of the throttle, let you go, draft you back, and grab it on the way to the line. That is going to be chess out the final corner, out the bus stop on the final lap.
Look at the amount of speed that Cameron Dance has got. And he was hanging right back coming out of the back straight. So he'll note that and maybe adjust. And if he's third on the last lap, he might put himself a little bit closer.
Cam Dance just did a lap that was 1 second faster than the official fastest lap. But it doesn't count because he's such a monster with the track limits in the bus stop. Dance, I think, has set 1 clean lap this race.
Well, yeah. Yeah, wow, 2 minute 9.1 he did. And as I was saying, he only needed a few more meters to actually get by Chastanoff at the line on that last time by, so that was very promising signs for him. Not so much for Hancock, Verney, and McLeod. Verney's got by McLeod, and they are not really finding any progress now. Further back, Russell Clark is only 12th. He's a couple spots behind Braden Martin. Whoa! Isaac Summers having to take some avoiding action. Just got too deep on the brakes, locked it up. Trying to avoid Clark and ends up on the grass. There is Braden Martin, running in 10th.
Yeah, indeed. Lost a couple of those positions with the contact with Russell Clark and hasn't really been able to work them back. This is where the fun's going to happen, though, as we approach the final lap of the race. Chastanoff, Dance, Skurlock have broken away from Dennis Hancock, so it's all about the mind games, the positioning on this final lap. I'm sure they've been thinking about this final lap for a couple laps now, maybe even since before this race started. It's one thing to be quick through the infield, it's one thing to have good lines and good car control, but it is literally just planning your moves in ahead and a bit of chess for these guys now.
So at the line to begin the final lap, it's Chastanoff and Dance side by side. It's Michael Skurlock in third. Dennis Hancock about 3.5 seconds away in fourth. Just watching on, hoping and praying for a miracle. Nathan Verney almost losing it as well in his battle with Mitchell McLeod. Look at this for Chastanoff. I'm not worried if I'm Chastanoff right now because I'm expecting Dance to pass me before the bus stop. That then puts Dance at the head of the train, exiting the bus stop.
It's going to be so interesting coming back onto the banking before the bus stop because at that point, no one wants to lead. If Dance starts closing up on Chastanoff, he's going to roll out of the throttle. Dance is going to know that. Does Dance roll out of the throttle likewise? And then what does Skurlock do from third? This could be very, very interesting if these guys got their thinking caps on right now.
All right, out onto the oval. Chastanoff with a few car lengths over Dance. He just edges it up the road a few car widths. He doesn't want to be the leader. Neither does Cameron Dance. Expect Dance to sit behind him. Look where Michael Skurlock is. Way, way back. Is he gearing up for a massive run through the bus stop?
He's hoping to pick up that double draft. I'm sure that's Skurlock's plan.
That's what Dance got the previous lap, but he was just too far back. Look for Skurlock to be very quick through here this time by. Chastanoff and Dance using all of the road they can. That's pretty close for Dance. Has he got away with that one? I think he has. But now this is interesting, isn't it? Top two, neither of them have a draft. And here comes Skurlock. Going to be a drag race to the line. Now Dance tucks in to get the toe. He's giving it to Skurlock, but he's getting it from Chastanoff. He pulls to his outside. Now he's got a brick wall of air. Here comes Michael Skurlock. He gets by Chastanoff. He goes to the high side of Cameron Dance to the line. Dance gets it.
Well, everyone in the stands had their cameras out and ready, and Cameron Dance timed it to perfection. Chastanoff, I don't think, did enough before the bus stop. Skurlock timed his run just ever so close there. And there's not... It's going to be a couple more photo finishes. There comes another one. Braden Martin back at Zulus and Ira Thelberg. Braden Martin, I think, just grabs 9th in that.
Look at this. Scott Melville, Peter Wilkinson, Leon Williams. Wilkinson low. Williams behind. I lost him. There they go. Wilkinson gets there.
On the slow burner all the way through the race that they were going to try to set up their run out the bus stop and their position to try and grab a big toe and grab a win. And Dance using the banking, coming down off the banking, swinging back down low to pick up a little bit more speed. Then in the draft, and he timed that one to perfection. Not too early, not too late. He grabs the win. And it was by a teeny tiny amount there, 3 wide.
Let's take a look at our full results then at the end of our first race tonight. As
in celebration, he's going to punch some cones and then head into the infield, look for someone with a barbecue and a chili bin.
I don't think you're too far off the mark there. Final margin of victory was 0.03 of a second. Dance to Skurlock, Chastanoff there in third, missing out on the last lap. Dennis Hancock fourth by himself. Then McLeod and Verney in fifth and sixth, ahead of Jason, a few wins. Braden Martin back at Silas and Ira Thelberg.
Then back half of the field here, Russell Clark couldn't recover from the contact in the infield like he would have liked. But Isaac Summers gets 12th ahead of Wilkinson and Melville, who are side by side at the line with Leon Williams. And then Jeremy Bush team bit back in 16th. Sean Doyle 17th, not what he would have wanted or could have achieved. Then Darren Lasue 18th, Matthew Joy 19th, Reg James in 20th. Jack Patterson didn't take the start from what I can tell.
No, it doesn't look like it did, unfortunately, for him. So, make sure you stick with us because we still got another qualifying session and another race to come here at Daytona. But if you didn't manage to catch the action last week, well, don't worry because we've got you covered. We've got highlights from round 1 at Virginia International Raceway. And the season of 2021 got off to a relatively clean start. It's a standing start we don't get to see tonight. Everyone just walks it away from the line with the low power these cars have, and it was very clean. All the way up until we got to Oak Tree, where unfortunately we saw our first spinner of the year. That unfortunate title goes the way of Mr. Jeremy Bush. There he is. Just lost it with the rear end. It stepped down on him. There wasn't much he could do. We saw a lot of this throughout the race, side by side. At the end of the back straight into turn 13. That time it was Dance taking the lead away. Clark and Chastanoff side by side as well. Scott Melville also managed to make some moves happen on, was it Ira Thelberg? And we had that contact, didn't we? And that really broke up the order with Skurlock turning Clark and Doyle having nowhere to go. It left just 2 cars up front. And Peter Wilkinson, further back in the pack, made some progress, learned from the leaders and went by Scott Melville in commanding fashion. And then this was the final move, the deciding move. Chastanoff and Dance changing positions onto the final lap. Chastanov led onto the last lap. Aren't these some familiar names after this first race today? But it was Cameron Dance up the back straight, taking the lead away. And, well, he had to fight hard for it because Chastanov gave it everything through 14. But right here in 15, Dance just cleared him and decisively moved across and stole the racing line from him. So Cameron Dance won race 1 at Virginia. He's won race 1 at Daytona as well. Race 2, David, was just as exciting, wasn't it?
Yep, that is the pit stop race, the longer race. So we'll take a look at race 2 from a week ago. Of course, that standing start once again into the hairpin of turn 1 gives some people a look, an idea to be brave. Chastanov goes down the inside of Ewens because he didn't quite have the qualifying he wanted for race 2 to fight his way through, strategize his way back. Pit stops, always of great intrigue. A lot of drivers go for it. Some fake out with the pit lane. I need to pit in. I'm going to pit. No, I'm not. I am, says Skurlock there as he decides he's going to commit to the pit in. And close race, a little bit of contact, not the room left they would have wanted, and this was a pretty sickening incident for both cars. Lots of wheels off the wagons, a lot of damage done in that one. Now, the leader Dance comes for the pit lane while Clark and Chatanov stay out. The undercut ended up being pretty powerful for Cam Dance because a lap later, those two came for their pit stop. I think Chatanov wasn't as brave with the pit-in commitment cones as Dance had been when he pitted all by himself, and on the pit straight, he comes back, takes the lead away from Chatanov, and Clark and Skurlock joins them as well in this battle, second, third, and fourth. A lot of moves were made. The end of the back straight, in towards the roller coaster. And then another 3-car battle. To turn 1 here, Chatanov was very, very strong with his defensive moves all race long, it must be said, but down the back straight, just like it is here on the banks of Daytona, the draft was very, very strong. Here, Clark had the run, Clark had the nose in front, and ended up holding on to that second place, even though the run out of Hogpen was very, very strong for Chatanov. Couldn't grab second place back, and Cam Dance made it the clean sweep of round 1. He's managed to continue that onto round 2 tonight at Daytona.
That he has. And up next, we've got qualifying. And qualifying laps, they're so tough to nail as we take a look at where you can find Daytona. It is in Florida. I think anyone who's a motorsport fan knows Daytona is so synonymous with worldwide motorsport. It is located in Florida and at Daytona Beach, a very picturesque location. And it always surprises me how close it actually is to the actual city there. Not far away from all the hustle and bustle of the American city life. Opened in 1959, existed as an oval, and then progressed into a road course as well, which was developed over time, and now stands as pretty much the annual curtain raiser to the motorsport season with a Rolex 24-hour. But you want to know that qualifying lap, David, don't you? So talk us through how you go about putting together the perfect lap at Daytona.
His lap on board with Peter Wilkinson. As you can see, the banking drops away as you turn off the oval and into turn 1. Left-hander kink leads into the main left-hander of turn 1, and people take different lines through there. Then, of course, it's flat out through this little left-right that feeds you then to the pit exit. You want to come across to open up your entry into the first of the horseshoes and then use all of the track on the exit as well. It's, of course, where Clark and Martin had a little bit of coming together there, but then in towards the next horseshoe. Same deal again. You want to open up the entry. Take the apex in the middle and then work on getting the power down. That then feeds you towards turn 6. Looking back at all of the massive grandstands and lights of Daytona International Speedway. Every corner that leads onto the banking, very, very critical. That's one of them. Feeds you back onto the oval at turns 1 and 2. All by yourself, you want to keep the line nice and low at that yellow line. You're racing in a pack, sometimes that goes out the window. You want to follow the draft or break the draft to those behind. But in qualifying, in a hot lap all by yourself, keep it low, take the short line, or you then feed it back out onto the back straight here, looking down the track for your braking marker into the bus stop. Difficult complex, you need to carry a lot of speed in. There is 4 apexes, you got to bounce it across the curbs all the way. If you can dance, you've got to keep it within the track limits as well, very important. Then to carry your speed off there all the way to the finish line. It's keeping it down low in oval, NASCAR 3 and 4 once again. Close to the yellow line, but not bumping the apron, keeping it on the banking. The banking fans out a little bit in your run towards the checkered flag, and here you're in top gear. You're at about 6,000 RPM. You are just holding that throttle wide open and praying for a tailwind, praying for a slipstream to take you to the line.
And there you have it. A lap of Daytona driven by Peter Wilkinson, narrated by David Haynes. And well, hopefully Wilkinson can do something similar to that in qualifying right now. He's out there on his first lap, just making his way out onto Oval 1 and 2. We saw Wilkinson in a pretty close fight to the line win out in race 1. But we'll have to see what he can do in this second race. He'll be hoping to put himself a little bit higher up the order. The best route there, as always, to qualify well. Needs to nail the braking zone in here. Maybe a little bit tentative, as I just jumped on board with him there. It should be the second lap that's quicker, though, so not the end of the world, just to give yourself a bit of breathing room and make sure you've got a banker it on the first one, David.
Yeah, and I mean, for an absolute, all-out assault on qualifying, you want to, really throw it in, carry the speed into the bus stop. But, for one of the earlier laps, or just to make sure you get a clean lap in, I think if you're a little more tentative on the way in, but make sure you pick up the throttle and take the correct line on the exit, that is all the way from the exit to the line going to help you a lot more than gaining a 10th, braking late, bombing it in sideways to the bus stop.
So, Cameron Dance there goes to the top of the 10-8. Wilkinson actually elected to stay right at the top of the racetrack as he came across the line. Wanted to set himself up for turn 1, so he was very much focusing on lap number 2. Skurlock, though, pretty damn quick on lap 1. He's just knocked Dance off by a few hundredths of a second. 9 cars with times so far. Here comes Backett Sulis towards the start-finish stripe. He keeps his car down low, but he'll have to open it up for turn 1. 2.12.2 puts him 8. Actually electing to stay pretty tight to that inside there.
A little bit of moving up and down on the banking here. But as long as you keep it mainly in that groove down low for the road course cars, that's always the fastest way around here, is to take that shortest route.
Suppose with the low-powered cars, it doesn't quite matter so much to open up the corner and really nail the braking zone, because you're not scrubbing off that much speed. You can't lock up too easily. So taking that shortest route does make sense as we get ready for the second lap to be completed in just a minute's time. Another few still to complete their first, though. Here's one of them. Sean Doyle didn't get himself through the first lap cleanly. No time registered. So he needs to put things together on the second attempt. Wilkinson as well, you can see him on screen there, has fallen to 10th. Only needs to find 0.3 of a second to go up to 7th, though. So he's not that far away from a very good qualifying result. Again, goes to the top side of the racetrack. And lets it drift back. I'm not sure if there's any time being lost there. He does an 11.9. Goes 7th. Right, I said. There you go. And Cameron Dance goes to the top as well at a similar point with a 10.78. And Michael Skurlock takes it right back from him with a 10.6. And McLeod is third in all of this as well. Very high coming out of turn 4. They've still got their third lap to come as well, of course, but third lap, you often find the tyres just lose their edge a little bit.
Certainly could be the case. Here comes back at Soulis. From 10th, is he going to improve? He's not. He's actually going to drop a little bit of time compared to his first lap. So now the third one might be important, but that is a lock-up towards turn 1. Still manages to get it back turned down to that second apex. So not all lost on this attempt.
Well, I said they might lose their edge, but the timing screens are lighting up with purple sectors at the moment. So we could see some improvements on this third lap. It is pretty cold out there. The lights are on. It's 21-degree track temp. Could be adding these tyres and just staying within their window for 3 really flat-out aggressive laps. 17 cars with times. Sean Doyle, one of the cars without a time, hoping that this lap is clean enough to put him somewhere in amongst the top 10 will be where he's hoping for, I imagine. 2:12.6. Only goes 13th. And he backs out of it, so not going to go on with it for his third lap. In fact, he wouldn't have had enough time.
Dance currently in second, needs to find a 10th of a second, or maybe a little more, depending on what kind of improvement Skurlock can pull out. And look at that there, the left-hand side tyres just kissing the yellow line all the way around the banking. He's looking and searching for every single hundredth or thousandth of a second he can grab on this qualifying lap.
Just enough. Dance! It's changing quickly at the top. Skurlock? No. It's a Cameron Dance with that late improvement there, David. Almost got knocked off by Chastanov, surprising them all, but just couldn't make it happen. What has Mitchell McLeod got up his sleeve?
Probably another beer, but in this qualifying lap, we're going to see. He had a very good first sector to this lap. And it's still an improvement, but only enough up to third. So he might have dropped away a little bit somewhere else later in the lap. But we know he's got speed, and now he's going to start the race a little bit higher up the grid than race 1. And there's the pit stop strategy. I think he's definitely far more of a threat.
Indeed he is. We often see the field spread, unfortunately, sometimes with the second race. Hopefully it stays relatively closer today. Dan, saw him certainly skip away at Virginia. It's a really enticing qualifying time, though. The top 4. Just 4 tenths between them. Here's your starting grid for race 2. Steady on, Jay. Go back a page. Cameron Dance is on the pole. Michael Skurlock is second. McLeod and Chastanov share row 2 with Russell Clark and Dennis Hancock behind them. Brado Martin and Nathan Verney line up 7th and 8th. Peter Wilkinson and Jason Fewins will be 9th and 10th.
Then we have Jeremy Bush in 11th, Philip Bakatsulis in 12th, Scott Melville in 13th, Ira Felberg 1 row further back from race 1 in 14th place, Sean Doyle in 15th, Reg James a little higher up in 16th, Isaac Summers in 17th, Leon Williams in 18th place, and then Matthew Joy, the last driver with a qualifying time in 19th, because Darren Lasue did not manage to get one.
So, as I said, track really cool, only 21 degrees Celsius for these drivers, so grip shouldn't be an issue. Might be with the cold tyres initially, but with this little warm-up phase, they can get some temp into those tyres. 12 laps ahead of them. They can pit any time from the end of lap 1 until until whenever they want, as long as they're not pitting on the final lap of the race. At Virginia, we saw a lot of the field go pretty much to the middle didn't we, David? Which is a little bit different from what we've seen with a lot of early stops normally. We saw a few people faking out at their pit stops. Dance, Skurlock all did it a couple times, I think. Russell Clark as well. What are we expecting from the strategy today?
I have no form guide for that, no idea what to expect, except what I can tell you is it's a difficult pit in and pit out here, so that could factor into it.
But you've got to get the car wound down from maximum speed and sometimes in a pack as well. Not quite as bad as a full NASCAR Cup car pack, but still pretty bad. It's pit road speed limit. And then coming out, you've got a very sharp left-hander with a concrete fence on the outside with no runoff room. You've also got a little bit of a chicane that if you get wrong, has some really, really aggressive rumble strips that will tear your car apart. So it's a bit of a landmine, the pit complex at Daytona. And these Skippies are not known for their sturdiness. They are quite fragile cars when you hit something. So
yeah, they are going to have cold tires and then have to, walk that line, that little minefield on the way out of the pit lane. So if we see one driver maybe get a bit aggressive and understeer into that wall, I wouldn't be surprised. That's what the wall's for, to stop those cars on the pit exit making a mistake and spearing across the racetrack.
So, it was Cameron Dance that got the job done in race 1. It leads us away again in race 2, looking to clean sweep of the first 2 rounds of the season as we go up through the gears and get ourselves rolling once more at Daytona. Brilliant jump for Dance. He's clear into turn 1. And McLeod's going to follow him as they are 3 wide in the background, maybe even 4 wide for a couple of them. McLeod's up to 2nd already. Skurlock back to 3rd.
Bit sketchy again, but everyone holds their line through turn 1 and makes it through cleanly. Now to the horseshoes. Still cold tyres for all of our field. Top 5 have gone single file, but behind that it's 2 wide through the horseshoe.
Braden Martin, Dennis Hancock wheel to wheel. So are Vernie and back at Sulis. Vernie just wins out over back at Sulis, and a little bit later, Hancock loses out to Martin. It's now the top 10 of single file. But expect that to change in about 20 seconds time when we get back onto the oval. There's Ara Felberg looking up the inside on Peter Wilkinson. Sean Doyle found an open door and wanted to go through as well, but not going to happen. And this has been a terrible opening lap for Wilkinson. He's lost a chunk of ground.
Yeah, and it wasn't a great qualifying from Sean Doyle now in the group. And now onto the banking. They are all going to go 2 wide, but who at the end of this is going to go for the pit lane? Your top 4 starting to break away just a little bit. Over a second between Chateauneuf and Clark as they are going to go side by side for the lead. McLeod wants it into the bus stop.
Just like in race 1, it's Clark leading that second group, but he is getting swallowed up towards the bus stop. Martin and Hancock both go flying by. Hancock was very ambitious. Just had to get the car slowed down a little extra touch to keep himself within the confines of the racetrack. And that checked out Vernie. Now he's got back at Sulis and Fuelman's right behind. Melville having an incident through the bus stop as well. Keep your eye on pit entrance then. Who is going to dive to the pits on lap number 1? None of the top 3. Chasteauneuf, though, is coming in from 4th.
Hell behind him there as well. That might be back at Sulis coming in. There's definitely a few deeper in the field going for that hit. Includes Scott Melville in that as well, with the damage that he sustained in the bus stop. Just didn't have the rear grip when he went into the corner. Lost the rear. Couldn't catch it again and found the tyre barrier for him on that one, unfortunately.
So lap 1 was led by Skurlock, but he's already 3rd again. That's how quickly things can change in these races. Hancock ahead of Clark, Martin and Vernie behind them. With Matthew Joy, a bit wide there out of turn 3.
not the perfect line, skating across the grass, but then he found one of the access roads, and that gripped him up and sent him in the correct direction.
Just looking at where Chastanov has fed out into some really clean air, which is good news for him. Back at Sulis, though, has fed out right in front of... well, he's fed out with Fewens and Doyle. So they're going to continue their fight. Let's be careful not to hold each other up, though, because those cars that haven't pitted are going to maybe try and work together. That's not how you work together. Jason Fewens on the inside.
Right, yeah, a good overcut could definitely work here at Daytona. First, second, third on the way into the bus stop. Little break, and then Russell Clark, Dennis Hancock. Of course, drops Chateauneuf from that pack. Interesting for back at Sulis to go up high. Let Fewens come on through. Sean Doyle has then the monster of the draft. On their way to the bus stop, he's going to go from third in the pack to first in the pack, it would look like, for Sean Doyle.
Yeah, bad news for some, good news for others. As into the pits comes McLeod, Russell Clark, Skurlock, and Cameron Dance stays out.
Yep, for your leader, going long, making the overcut. It's worked for him in some other races, worked for him a week ago. So I don't see why he wouldn't go for it here.
Well, he went early last time, didn't he? But he was still by himself. He was by himself, but he went early, so he's flipped things around. I wonder if he'll put a lap 3 again. Either way, that is McLeod and Skurlock and Clark feed out relative to Chastanov. The answer is pretty much as they were. It's Skurlock from Chastanov, then Clark. McLeod ahead of them all. If they work together,
the tires isn't going to be enough to break away from those guys on the banking.
No. If they work together here, slingshot each other on the straights, single file through the infield, they can give Dance a really hard time, and Dance might be in trouble when his stop. I think it's worth pitting now if I'm Cameron Dance. I don't want to get left out there by myself on a track this dependent on the draft. At Virginia, there was still a lot of work to be done through the corners, but at Daytona, it's so important, isn't it? And right now, if things go well back there, he could lose a lot.
Yeah, a little tough to gauge. Right now, it's 27 seconds between Dance and Mitchell McLeod, who's the leading car of all the cars who have pitted. You'd be keeping an eye on that gap, seeing which direction it's going, and that would feed your intuition about whether to pit or whether to stay out from the lead.
Well, Dance doesn't seem worried. He's going to keep going. So he goes past his marker from Virginia and heads on to lap 4. Martin and Vernie are still out there as well. In second and third, they're pretty close together. Bush and Wilkinson have also elected to stay out. Hancock's in the lane at the moment. Imagine he'll rejoin somewhere behind Skurlock, McLeod and co, who are having a drag race in towards turn 1.
Thought McLeod was going to bomb it down the inside there, and he's not able to. I don't think this is helping him.
You know what I think happened then? I think McLeod wanted to back out of it and let Skurlock just take the racing line so they didn't hold each other up. But Skurlock wanted McLeod to just go by on the inside on the racing line, and he was staying out wide, so they didn't hold each other up. So what happened is no move was made, and they still held each other up.
Yeah, gap between Dance and McLeod has extended half a second, and Skurlock's ahead now. So it's not really seeing these three guys who've made their pit stops closing in on Cam at the moment.
Let's see what happens to the gap here now. Here, though. Now. that they're on the straight.
Right here. Right
and they
now.
can slingshot. Yeah. So Cameron Dance, for reference, before he jumped on the brakes for the bus stop, was at a cool 201 kilometers an hour. Chastanov there peaks at 208 kilometers an hour before he jumps on the brakes. That's a speed difference he gets from the draft. Now he leads. And, well, Skurlock should get that speed advantage now and towards turn 1. Here he comes.
Only 4 drivers now have stayed out. It's the pals of Martin and Verney and Bush and Wilkinson, like you see here. Dance has made it all the way to his pit stall. The trio pursuing him are crossing the start-finish line now. I think Dance is going to come out ahead, but it's all a matter of how far ahead.
If he's not out of the slipstream range, then it's not far enough. And he's not going to be out of the slipstream range. The battle is going to be well and truly on for the race win. In race 2 at Daytona, there's Dance just up the road. He's going to have cold tyres as well. Little lock up from McLeod. I would say feeling the pressure, but I severely doubt it. McLeod is probably 7 or 8 drinks deep and not really aware of what he's doing. It's like second nature to him, driving around the racetrack. And he's probably yelling at his followers over on Twitch as well.
Glad he's doing his thing over there because it's probably not broadcastable here.
Yeah, exactly right.
He's not in a bad position now. I thought Dance would maybe have a second further up the road, maybe give or take is second place picking up the draft. But by the time they get to the bus stop, this is going to be nothing from Cam Dance. And in fact, it's going to give us a great measurement. How much do you gain on ovals turn 1 and 2?
Lots. Still waiting on 4 cars to pit as well, by the way. Verney, Barton, Wilkinson and Bush. They won't be a factor in the race lead, though.
No, they were 8 seconds off Dance. That'd see them feeding out somewhere between Hancock and Doyle, the way it's going.
Looks like they're coming into the pits. Steady on, careful, don't run into each other. They both got it slowed up nicely. Followed by Wilkinson and Bush as well. So everyone has made their pit stop by lap 5 of this race. And here comes McLeod.
Dance is going to try to play the long game again. He's let them both through. He just wants to stay with the pack, and then with 2 laps to go, 3 laps to go, he'll start working his way into the position he wants.
Look at that lap from Chastano for 9.3. Remember that unofficial lap from Cameron Dance? Was it in race 1? Was it 9.1? Although McLeod and Skurlock are 9.2 and a 9.3 as well, but they didn't count in terms of keeping it on the racetrack.
Wilkinson made his pit stop. He's now back at Soulis here in 11th and 12th. Everyone now having made their pit stop before we got to the halfway point. So no one wanted to leave it too long.
Here we go. Chastan's going to go back by him.
That is side by side for the lead on the banking. Chastity high, McLeod low. McLeod looks to just squeeze back in line before the bus stop in front of Dance. And again, Skurlock is doing this thing where he just waits an extra car length or two back off the train where he can. But now he's not. He's going to go right down the middle. He's going to take the lead for a minute here as they're going to be 3 wide on the banking.
Fourth to first for Mitchell McLeod. Thank you very much, he says. I will make a note of that for the last lap of the race. Would not surprise me one bit if these guys end up 4 abreast at some point before this race is done.
I mean, the key thing that Skurlock learned from race 1 is you don't want to be 9/10 back off the bus stop on the final lap. You want to be 7/10 back. So he's got his measurements right for where he wants to be relative to the pack on the final lap. Calibrated his instruments, I guess.
Well, with 4 cars, I don't think you want to be 4th. I think 3rd is still very much doable. Skurlock just got it slightly wrong. But I think 4 is too much, especially if they go 3 wide in front of you. You actually need a bit of cooperation from those 3 to be able to make it 4 wide, and they're not going to give you that cooperation on the last lap. So it's going to be an interesting fight to not be first and not be last in this group. But there's still 5 laps to get to that point.
And their lap times are still pretty good on that last lap, much to the dismay of Russell Clark, Dennis Hancock, and Nathan Verney and Braden Martin, where Nathan Verney has come out of the pit stop and ended up quite a bit ahead of Braden Martin, almost breaking the toe there. Next pack really looking at, it's Sean Doyle and Jason Fewens.
Yeah, there's still plenty happening elsewhere in the field, isn't there? Fewens is just in range of that slipstream right now. Behind him, though, back at Surlis and Wilkinson are side by side, and behind them, Isaac Summers and Jeremy Bush are side by side, with Ara Felberg looking to buy in on the action as well. In towards the bus stop, the inside line works out. The best line for Jeremy Bush. 3 wide, though, up front. For a moment, they're 2 wide now, though. McLeod leads again.
A lot of lane changes, bit of gamesmanship. You know what? I think the more cars you have in the lead pack, the equation for where you want to be on the final lap, what you want to do, becomes sort of exponentially difficult. Because with 2 cars, there's 2 possibilities. You know, you hang back or you don't. 3 cars, you know, it becomes like far more possibilities. Do you lead? Are you in the middle? Are you on the back? Do you hang back in the back? Do you drop back from the middle to the back? Whatever. By the time it's 4 cars, it really becomes that much more difficult to plan ahead and correctly anticipate what's going to be the right position to be in when.
When it all comes down to it at the end. 4 laps. It's pretty much a waiting game, isn't it? I don't think we're going to see too much at the front. We'll see your standard slingshots, but there's nothing to fight for right now. There's no point throwing away a result by having an incident. Chastanov might go by here on the outside, and McLeod will let him go in a minute. Like clockwork.
Similar to what they did a lap ago, but then it all got crazy 3 wide from the bus stop to the line. And they're kind of testing, I think, where they can be, what they can do. I don't know. If I want to play that game, he goes up high on the banking very early to see McLeod go low. Dance is following the very high line, and Skurlock, again, just in that, I'll stay in 4th, I'll watch, I'll wait position.
Oh, that's a little bit tight. Cameron Dance wanted to get up and go by Chastanov, but at the same time, Chastanov was getting up and going by McLeod, and Dance just had to keep chasing him up the racetrack. Almost got into his gearbox. And now he's caught on the far side of the racetrack for turn 1.
And not just his gearbox, that nondescript container of fluid on the rear of the car. Have you run out of fingers and toes to count the lead changes? I don't think I even started. I think that was going to be a lost cause.
Now, I've got too many things I'm juggling in my head right now to start counting. Think I can handle counting, David?
Even when there's not racing going on, I doubt it.
Yeah, no. Exactly right. Jay and I, birds of the same feather. Sean Doyle and Jason Fewens battling away still. Remember I said Fewens was just in the slipstream range of Doyle? Well, he made good of that, and now he's right up behind him. And should be able to have a good fight with him once they get back onto the oval. Might have a look here at the second horseshoe. Doyle just angles in and shuts that door. Oh, no, Fewens, hang on to it, buddy. All that good work goes begging.
There's not much grip on that runoff.
No, there's not, is there?
These guys doing their best to make sure they rubber in the high line on the oval, and they don't quite want to lead.
Lap 9 of 12, coming on to lap 10 once we hit the line. And that is curious. It's almost like watching a Cup Series race. It doesn't happen much in Xfinity and trucks, but in the Cups it happens a lot. They just ride on the top. Talking about NASCAR, of course. And that's a case of the top two not wanting to be at the top of the train. But Mitchell McLeod eventually says, screw it, I'm going to the front. It's always good to lead a lap.
Right, no one actually wants to be leading this 4-car pack, but no one wants to give up so much time that, you know, everyone else behind starts catching them or they start running 3, 4, 5 seconds off the pace. So eventually, someone bites the bullet, takes the lead, leads for a little bit, and then tries to hand that hot potato away.
Yeah, well, they're not going all out because with 4 cars, they're lapping at exactly the same time as Russell Clark, who's all by himself. Unfortunately, he's 7.7 seconds away.
Bernie's caught Hancock, though. That's interesting to see, that Nathan Verney's been able to find enough speed in 7th to catch Dennis Hancock in 6th, because otherwise it was, you know, our top 4, and then just cars all alone so lonely, spaced out all the way back till about 10th.
.7 of a second. James Chatternoff may have to slide off a little bit too much on this lap. Cameron Dance is going to chase him up the racetrack and just check the levels of fluid in that discrepant container.
Chatternoff going all the way up the racetrack, trying to make Dance go through in a second. Sometimes you can lead a horse to water. He was not able to make it drink. Dance just wanted to wait in 3rd. You said in this 4-car pack, you think 3rd might be the best place to be. Yep. We're starting to see Dance just want to stay there in 3rd.
But he doesn't want to let McLeod get away. Look at that. Chastanoff has laid off almost too much. And he had to go pretty well through the bus stop. If he made a mistake through the bus stop, it would have actually been very interesting to see if McLeod could hold his gap.
But I was Dance,
he didn't make a mistake.
If I was Dance, I'd finish second to Chastanoff or Skurlock before I ever let Mitchell McLeod win.
Oh, of course.
Like I'm not even having a dig there. I think that's seriously the approach you might take here. Sure, you know, you don't want to lead, but you do not want to let anyone, you know, get away here.
I'd rather Jay win than McLeod. No, we love McLeod. It's okay.
Jay's getting paid more than these 4 guys. He's the real winner.
Yeah. McLeod has good chats with us. Had good races with him. But with good chats comes good rivalries. And McLeod is doing something right now that could be of disservice to Dance, and that's denying him the lead in a race where Dance is trying to clean sweep the first 4 of the season. First 2 rounds, first 4 races. That would be a big statement in the championship, both mentally and points-wise, if he can pull that off.
Christian Summers, 13th, 14th, 15th with RF Felberg just trying to hang on to the back of them as well. This is the battle deepest in the field because Lesieux, Williams, Joy all by themselves, Reg James, Scott Melville, retirements unfortunately. McLeod now starting to try to give away the lead. What's going on? What's the games? He's worked out he's not going to be able to break away, even though he had built up 7 or 8 tenths in second or third were playing games. Top 3, high line, up against the wall, and once again, Michael Skurlock says, nah, I'm sick of this. I'm just going to follow the normal racing line down low, and Chastanoff dropped low.
McLeod got out of the throttle then, and Dan still stayed behind him, coming to the last lap. McLeod goes back to the inside to lead onto the white flag lap, and Skurlock is still back there in 4th. And again, just like when he was 3rd, he might be too far back if he sits in the same spot by the time we get back to the bus stop next lap. He's got to get closer. Little mistake from McLeod, ran very wide. Well, maybe it was a mistake, maybe it was a calculated error. Calculated. There he goes, back to 2nd.
Tried to give away 2nd, and Dance wasn't going to take it. This is very, very interesting stuff from these guys. They've saved it all for the last lap. It's not going to be enough to let Russell Clark catch them, I don't think, because he's 9 seconds back. He has been catching them because they are all playing.
He's lost 2 seconds, actually. That's surprising. I think Clark actually made an error or so because he was 7 seconds away, but he's lost some time. Last lap or so, David. But look at this. Look how tight these 4 are now. Chastanoff doesn't want to be there. Pretty much forced into this scenario, though, but still, leading in this stage isn't too bad because you're going to lose it by the bus stop.
You're going to try to lose it by the bus stop, but
he will. Here we go.
Right up high, willing to roll out of the throttle again, I'm sure.
So Chastanoff down low and McLeod up high, none of them with the toe. McLeod will take the lead away. And Dance still sits in 3rd, where he's been jockeying to be for the last few laps. He wants Chastanoff to get a hurry on. Look at the run McLeod got. Did Chastanoff lift too far off? Not the first time he's done that. Last time he did that, they didn't get there by the start-finish line. Chastanoff may have just handed this one to McLeod on a silver platter with a really, really bad judgment call.
Gonna see, at least for 2nd, Dance now has to pull out of the draft to go high to get in front of Chastanoff. What line is McLeod going to take? Who's he going to give the slipstream to? Dance is going to get it, but it looks like
McLeod going to come to the line, and Mitchell McLeod wins race 2. And how about that for 2nd? Who was it? It was Cameron Dance by 0.02 of a second, stealing it away from Chastanoff. That's disappointing. Chastanoff, huge error there. He should have learned from earlier on. He made that same mistake a few laps ago, but he did it again. Just handed it to McLeod. But kudos to Mitch, putting himself in that spot.
crazy that it all boils down to just that in the battle for the top 4. Couple more slipstreaming battles to the line. Hancock won his battle with Verney. Doyle won his battle with Fewens.
Okay, that was not a battle won with the tyre bundle there. Back at Sulis. Just tore his car to pieces.
Less than happy with losing out to Peter Wilkinson in their little drag race here.
Oh, it's about as tight as it gets. Almost as tight as Dance and Chastanoff at the line. So let's take a look at our results. Mitchell McLeod, after starting from the back in race 1, qualifies well for race 2 and wins the second race. Cameron Dance is second ahead of Chastanoff. Skerlock and Clark 4th and 5th. Hancock, Verney, Martin, Doyle and Thewins your top 10.
11th place is that battle we saw between Wilkinson and Backett Soulis. Teeny tiny 100th of a second in it there, maybe 200ths if we're being a little generous, but still absolutely side by side at the stripe in that battle. Then Jeremy Bush in 13th ahead of Ira Felberg in 14th, had a couple tenths in hand over Isaac Summers, had a little couple seconds ahead of Darren Lesueur, then Leon Williams well back along with Matthew Joy. Retirements for Reg James and Scott Melville, that was our 20 car grid.
Indeed. Let's have a chat then to Cameron Dance, winner in race 1. Didn't manage to clean sweep the round like in the first round, but still a good day out for you overall.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're points hunting rather than just, race results at the end of the day. So if we can just keep collecting a nice amount of points each round, that's going to be pretty much what we're going to end up being and having the championship in our hands.
Well, you say you're not you're not race hunting, but you do love a good race win, and you were certainly jockeying to be in the right spot. Looked like you wanted to be third heading out of the bus stop on the last lap, but you think a bit of an error from Chastanoff there, lifting off too much?
Yeah, he seemed to back us up a little bit too much, which was, not quite the smartest move that I've possibly seen from this sort of racing, but is what it is at the end of the day. I did have a think about whether I should have passed him or not, and in the end, the hindsight's a thing. But I'll take it as it is. Second place is still going to be plenty of points.
Yeah, certainly is, and puts you in a good stead for the rest of the season. Happy with the results, obviously. Head towards round 3. What have you got to do to maintain your momentum in a field that is as close as ever?
Yeah, it's just going to be about being consistent and trying to be up the front end of the field. I mean, some of the rounds I'm not going to be particularly strong in, or haven't actually. Well, no, I've done a lap of New Hampshire, but I haven't really raced there, so I don't know how that's going to go. Northside's probably going to be my strongest suit, so yeah, we'll see what happens. And at the end of the day, just a matter of scoring consistent points and making sure we make no mistakes.
Well, best of luck with that. Who you want to thank for helping you get it done?
Yeah, just first of all, shout out to you guys for the awesome broadcast. See, I did it first try. I for the awesome series, all the boys for the awesome racing, the boys at Fitstone Motorsport, and our supporters, Tech Sense Centres, Renwell Harnesses, Demon Tweaks, Fight Colorectal Cancer, obviously everybody on the car, Kiwi Simulators, Hyper Stimulator, and yeah, just to see what happens next week.
Thank you very much, Cameron. Best of luck next week. Congratulations today. And we've also got Chastanoff here, or Chasty, standing by with David Haynes.
Hey guys, how you doing?
We are doing well. I hope you're doing well after those two races, because you were right in there, mixed amongst it. What goes through your mind for that final lap? Where do you want to be positioned, and how easy is it to make everyone else around follow that plan?
Well, not being first would probably be a good start, but it's a pretty interesting sort of last lap because everyone's all off the throttle. No one wants to take the lead. I was off the throttle for so much of that lap. It was unbelievable, and no one seems to be closing up. So it's a lot of gamesmanship out there.
Your best lap in this race that we just completed, 2:09. The last lap, a 2:13.6, gave away 4 seconds, trying to make sure you could stay in second or third there. But what about, was it too much on the way to the bus stop?
I don't know, just followed it the same way as I really was. Just kind of trying to see where Cameron Dance was, because he was going in pretty hot there too, so I just didn't want to break too early that he would hit me, so maybe a little bit that time, but other than that, I just think I just left the gap going into it too big.
And the strategy on the pit stop, pitting earlier than all these other guys in the top 4, in the end, did it make much of a difference?
No, I don't think it did. I mean, I was just trying to get out of the chaos, really. I wasn't sure what was going to happen with 4 people all trying to overlap each other, so I thought maybe they might have an incident early on the cold tyres and just get myself out of it and see where I end up. But yeah.
Of course, racing under lights here at Daytona, but the Skip Barber does not have any lights. Is there any part of the track that was a little dark, maybe in the infield?
No, not really. It's all pretty well lit up, and I guess the fact we're all playing on a simulator, it's probably not as dark as it probably would be in real life, so no real problems there.
Well, you keep grabbing a couple of points race after race. You still going to find yourself with a chance at the championship?
Yeah, I'll just hang in there and see what happens. I mean, the last few rounds have been a mixed bag with the slipstream, so just keep it up at the front and just see where it pops out at the end, so keep going what we're doing.
Well, thanks for finding the time to talk to us. We'll see you next week. Any thanks or shout-outs to deliver?
Yeah, thanks to you guys for running this event. Thanks to Ara for setting it all up. Thanks to Emu Sim Racing and LGC Images and the Banter Alliance as well.
Thank you very much, Shasti. Good job today. I'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. See you then.
So that brings us to the end of today's broadcast, but don't fear, we'll be back same time next week at 6:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time at New Hampshire road course for round 3 of the season. Big thanks, as always, to Simfinity for Prestige, Badge, Trophy and Engraving for their continued support. And if you want to find out more about the series, you can find it out at Ozicar, and make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube so you don't miss a minute of the action. But from tonight, for myself, Ryan Jones, David Haynes alongside me, and Jake Kennedy behind the scenes, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?